Welcome to the debauchery. We have such sights to show you.
Here's Johnny!
All you have left is my desire for you.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Welcome back to another episode of Fright Flick FMK, where we watch the horror movies and then we let you know if we would rather fuck it, marry it, or kill it. Hey, we've made it through another week, people. If you're hearing this should be Friday. So you fucking made it. Another week down, rolling into the weekend. And I say, you know, if you're hearing this because of one reason, I have recently upgraded pretty much everything. I've upgraded to a new computer. I've upgraded microphones, the sound system, little shit. I now use a Rodecaster now, and so see that Patreon money does go towards upgrading the show. And we are on Patreon, by the way. But yeah. So if you're listening to this, that means I have managed to figure out how to now use an iMac computer, because I've never had an iMac before. This is the first time I had one. I've had iPhones, iPads, and all that good shit, but now I have an iMac computer. Everything is now through the Apple. So I've been trying to figure that shit out. That's been that's a whole nother story. But if you're hearing this, that means I figured it out. That means I was able to get this thing recorded, get it uploaded, and, you know, avoid a clusterfuck. But we shall see. But yeah, made it through another week. Shit, see, I'm already slurring words, and there's a reason behind that, people. If you have followed along with this show at all, if you know me and you know this show, I tell people all the time, we go better with alcohol. We go down better when you've been a little bit inebriated, a little bit tipsy. Hold on one second. That's a gentleman Jack break right there. In case you didn't know, if you're new to the show, I like to take those throughout the show. That's my brand. That's my drink. So we go better with a little alcohol. And so this is that part of the show, people. I need you all to go pull up a chair. Go ahead and go into the kitchen, mix up your favorite beverage, whatever it may be, and come on back, pull up a chair, and we're about to shoot some shit about a horror movie. And that's the way this show rolls. If you're new to this, I like to make it to where it's almost like you're sitting across from me right now. Just picture it in your head. Close your eyes. I'm going to take you somewhere right now. Close your eyes. And let's just imagine right now, you're sitting across from me. You got your nice beverage right there in front of you. And we're about to just back and forth. We're going to talk about a horror movie. You know, nothing fancy. I don't get deep here, people. Nothing about me is deep. Nothing about me is fancy. You know, and we're just going to shoot the shit a little bit about a horror movie. That's the way this show goes. And, you know, Bill Oberst Jr., he nailed it on the head several weeks ago when he posted about this show. And he made the comment like it's just like two guys sitting across having a beer from each other talking about a movie they've seen. And that's exactly the way this show goes. That's exactly the way it's been, the way it's going to be. Nothing about me is fancy. Nothing about this show is deep. We're just going to talk about a movie. And I'm going to spoil the shit out of it. If you don't already know, I'm going to spoil a movie. That's just what I do. But I try to give you a heads up. I try to give you a little day or two prior, like this is what I'm going to cover. And it gives you a little time to do some homework, to pull it up and give it a watch. And that way I don't spoil it completely for you. But if you haven't seen this movie, you know, pause it right now, reach over, pause, go check it out. It's free. It ain't going to cost you shit, people. It's on Tubi. I watched it for free on Tubi. And you can go check this thing out, then come back and listen to me, you know, shoot the shit about it. But before I get into it, if anybody for the past episodes, last week's episode, Terrified, I did it with Rolinda the Doobie. And Rolinda, by the way, I finally figured that out. I put it together. Rolinda the Doobie. Roland the Doobie. Hey, if you are a, put it all together. Kudos to you for the sweet name, Rolinda the Doobie. But last week, Rolinda, she came on here. She joined us on the episode, and we talked a little. We shot the shit about Terrified. That was her pick. She is a newest Patreon family member. And in talking back and forth, we had talked about, and I mentioned to her about coming on here doing the show. She's never done a podcast before, but came on here and fucking crushed it. So I had a lot of fun with that. For the ones who stopped by and listened to it, downloaded it, liked it, whatever, yeah, I appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed. Maybe it does go unnoticed because I don't really look at numbers much, but I appreciate it either way. So this week's episode, like every week, I never really have a plan going into this shit. I just kind of look for something to watch, and when something jumps out at me, I'd be like, oh, let me give this a watch, and then I may decide if I want to, do a show on it. And on this week's episode, I came across it just strolling through, different streaming sites. I have, YouTube TV, and with that, I have the HBO, the Showtime, all that shit. And I have Shudder, I have, Amazon, Tubi, all of them. And I was just strolling through, looking for something that kind of tickled my fancy. And if you don't know what that means, it's a Southern thing. And if you can't tell by now the way I talk, I'm from the South. I'm from South Carolina originally. Yeah, I sound that as good as I can say it. But yeah, I was strolling through, and when I say tickle my fancy, that's what it is. A Southern thing for something. You see it, you like it, and it kind of tickles your fancy. I don't know what your fancy is, but I know what tickles it. However you want to take that. But so I'm sitting around yesterday, actually, and if you're listening to this on Friday, I'm probably recording this on Thursday because I just came across this movie yesterday, which would have been Wednesday. And I'm sitting there strolling through, just, looking for something. And on Tubi, and this is where I found this one, FYI. This is on Tubi. You can watch it for free. Ain't going to cost you shit. Download Tubi. If you already have Tubi, then hey, go ahead and search for it. And this one I seen the name, kind of jumped out at me. I was like, okay, let me click on it. And so I clicked on it, and I don't usually go into like websites and shit and start really looking into a movie usually until after I'm done watching it. I don't want I don't want IMDb or I don't want Rotten Tomatoes to fucking spoil it for me. I don't want to give a shit about what IMDb rates it. I don't give a shit about what Rotten Tomato gives it or what shit they say about it. I don't care. I like to watch one and then have my own opinion of it. And then once I'm done, I'll go and I'll look at some of the comments and see how other people may have took it or how they thought about it. But I never go into a movie thinking that, oh God, IMDb gave it a 2-star or 4-star. I'm not going to waste my time watching it. People like that, fuck you. You're missing out on a lot of good shit because of that. Because I've come across several movies that I have fucking enjoyed a lot. And you go to those websites like IMDb and shit like that, and you look at the ratings, and they may give it like a 1-star, 2-star, and some people get turned off by that. You throw out a movie title, and people automatically go to like Google the website, Google it, the movie, and then look at it and be like, "Oh, IMDb only give it 2 stars. I'm not wasting my time with that." You are fucking missing out, people. And I'm on a lot of Facebook, groups. By the way, FYI, we are on Facebook, Fright Flick FMK. You can find us there. We're also on Instagram, X, and TikTok. But go give us a like, give us a follow, give us, whatever that shit goes into social media. I'm an old guy. I don't, social media thing, I mess with it, but I'm not like, smart guy smart when it comes to it. But go give us a like, follow, whatever. But I follow along with a lot of like horror pages and shit. And I hear people when they make, somebody will recommend the movie. And one of the first comments you may see is somebody is going to be in there and they're going to, one of the first ones you may see was like, oh, IMDb only gives it 2 stars or 1 star. I'm not wasting my time with that. Why are you like that, people? Why? Why base a movie on what some fucking person, whoever, you don't even fucking know them, talked about a movie? And so you're just saying, fuck it, I'm not going to watch it because IMDb said this. I like IMDb because it gives you kind of a little bit of background, give you some shit. I ain't got a problem with IMDb, but I will never, ever base a movie or not watch a movie or will watch a movie based on what the fucking rating is on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or any of them. If I want to watch it, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to make my own opinion. So when this one came across, I don't go and dig into trailers and shit like that. Usually when I find one on Tubi or whatever it may be, I will just click on it and watch it. And then once it's over, then I will go look into what, IMDb, I'll look it up then. And so that's exactly the way this one went. Hold on 1 second. We're about to dig into it. People, give me 1 second. We're about to take us a gentleman jack break. Hold on. That's a gentleman jack break right there. And if you're listening to this on just the podcast, when I say that, and you can't see this, but that's what I'm doing. I'm picking up my Yeti. It's got the gentleman jack in it. I'm taking me a little break. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing it. You're going with me. And when I do that, I recommend that you reach over and whatever beverage you may be sipping on at this moment, grab it and have you a little sip. Take us a break together, and then we're gonna jump on back into it. But yeah, and so we're about to get into this thing, and I want to let you know the movie that I selected. And if you followed along with me on social media, you would already know this movie I'm about to talk about. And but yeah, we are on, when I say social media, we're on all the main social media sites. It's nothing fancy. I get on there when I can. I'm not one of those that is on it every day, posting and all that shit. I'm just not. I am not that type of person. Too old for that shit. But a lot of times I will get on there and post what may be coming up and shit like that. So, but hey, go just check us out. We're on YouTube. We're on all the podcast streaming platforms. If you check us out on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe, follow along, leave a comment or whatever. Apparently it helps with the numbers. That's what they say. So yeah, go give us a listen, check us out. I appreciate it. And if anybody who has, stumbled across this shit show and you gave us a chance and listened to it, hey, I appreciate it. I'm not stupid. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea here at this show. We're not your mama's podcast. We're not the check all the make you feel good, blah, 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 bullshit, type podcast. I do this the way I would do it if I was sitting across from you right now and I just need the fuck out of my desk. So if everything shook, that's what that was. But so I do this just like you're sitting across from me. If we're going to talk about a movie and tell you about this motherfucker I seen, man, you got to check out this movie or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But for the ones who are new, for the ones who have stumbled in the door somehow and heard about this shit show, we like in the title in the beginning, Fright Flick FMK, fuck it, marry it or kill it. Marrying it, the movie that's the top. That's the one you can watch every day, people. You just can pop that bad boy in, and it just doesn't get old to you. You enjoy it. You can watch it every day. Once a week it comes on, you'd be like, man, I ain't got shit to watch. I love this movie. I just want to watch it. Fucking it is your friends with benefits. And if you are old enough, you know what Friends with Benefits is. That's that movie that you just pop in when you need a fix. You don't want nothing serious. You don't want nothing that you got to really pay attention to. You just want to get that itch scratched. And that is the fuck. Friends with benefits. You have a feeling you need it fixed, and in that moment, you know that movie you can pop in, and that's just going to do it for you. And then we got the kill. The kill I like to call is the sea donkey. And sea donkey, if you've never heard of that phrase, go check out the movie Booty Call with Jamie Foxx, Tommy Davidson in it. The sea donkey. The sea donkey is your one night stand. You did it. You wasn't proud of it. And all you want to do is gather up your shit in the morning, crawl the fuck out, and forget you ever met that thing. That is the kill in the movie. So that's how we do it here. So we're going to jump right into this bad boy, people. This week's episode, I came across it on Tubi. Like I said, I'm not a guy with a plan. I found out about this yesterday, Wednesday. I'm recording on Thursday. You should be listening on Friday. That's how I roll here. I have no calendar. I have no plan. I will never have a calendar. I will never have a plan. I'm just going to whatever feels good at the moment. I jump right into it, and then we just roll. So this week's episode, came across it on Tubi. You can watch it for free on Tubi. This movie this week, I'm going to talk about Sweet River. Sweet River is an Australian horror movie. This is I think it was done in 2020, but it wasn't released, I think, to like streaming and shit like 2021. So I'm saying 2021. Normal runtime is about an hour and 40 minutes, which is kind of normal, you know. And runtime doesn't turn me away or anything like that. I've watched movies that are 3 hours long. You know, that doesn't bother me, but this one's about an hour and 40 minutes. And did I say you can watch it for free on Tubi? Ain't gonna cost you shit. I do it. I know I do watch sometime, Rob. I get them off of Amazon, I rent them, I buy them or whatever. But this one is for free. Ain't gonna cost you shit. It's gonna take an hour and 40 minutes out of your day to go check it out. But oh shit, hit the mic. If you're watching on YouTube right now, that bad boy's shaking like crazy, but I stopped it. But yeah, and I'm gonna give you a little backstory. And when I give you the little reading of this, I don't get this bad boy. I don't come up with this shit off my head. This is straight from, I think, either straight from Tubi maybe or IMDb. I can't remember. But here we go. Hannah's search for her son's body leads her to a sleepy town of Billings, where her investigation uncovers more than she expected and threatened to expose the town's secrets that both the living and the dead will fight to protect. That just grabs you right then. That's exactly how it got me, people. I seen the little picture, and because of Ava, my daughter, who is 9 now, she loves horror movies. She picks them out by the picture, you know, and this one was a simple picture, but I seen it, and that's what caught my eye, Sweet River. I just like the title of that. It just flows like Sweet River. And so I seen the title and everything, clicked on it, clicked on the about, read the about, and then I just said, fuck it, we're going to jump in and see and just check it out. And it wasn't probably until it didn't take me long, probably 10 minutes into it, I'm like, fuck, I think I want to do a show on this one. So here we are now, people. We are here. We are now. You are sitting across. Your drink is poured. We're about to shoot the shit about a horror movie right now. Sweet River. And this one was directed by Justin McMillan. And once again, that's not right off the top of my head. I take this shit off of damn IMDb, and that's how I remember it, because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. But this one takes place once again Australian horror, and I love Australian horror movies, love them, and so I've watched several. So when I seen this one was an Australian horror movie, I was like, oh, I'm cool with checking it out. But one thing, let's get into this real quick before we go on. And if you're one of those that wants to get right into the meat and taters of a show, right out of the gate, well, this one isn't one of those. I want to talk a little shit before we get into the meat and taters. But Australian horror, maybe it's just me, but I've watched quite a few. But what is it, Australia? Why are all of your like horror type movies seem to be focused on these? Like it seems almost seems like Australia only has one type of person out there, one type of area, one type of neighborhood, whatever it is. But it's like this, I grew up in the South, South Carolina. Back home we call it the trailer parks. I ain't hating on people who lived in a trailer park. That's not it. But growing up, and even to this day, you'll see people or whatever, and you'll be like, "Oh, trailer park," But why is it that most horror movies out of Australia gives us this fucking trailer park feeling to them? Like these mugs, you could bump into them at a trailer park. They're all just kind of just run down looking and dirty looking and talk like they got a third grade education sometime. Like I said, I enjoy Australian horror, I really do. But it's just kind of like, can we get us a good horror movie that takes place right downtown of Sydney, Australia, big neighborhood where some shit gets fucking killed up in that fancy whatever that place is down there in Australia, that big fancy building that everybody always, that's like that. When you hear Sydney, you think of that building. Like, let's get some good killing shit going on down there. Not just this backwood out in the outback stuff. 'Cause I know there's more to Australia than just the outback. But that's kind of where they always go with these horror movies. And like I said, not mad. Just a question. I was just curious. But this movie, Sweet River, is not the one that's going to take you downtown Sydney where all the fancy big town is and everything goes down. This one's going to take you to this little Billings. Billings? I don't know if that's a real place in Australia. I'm not from there. I do have a friend of mine, Lucy, who is in Australia right now. And she could let me know if there is a place called Billings. Lucy, hit me up, let me know. But yeah, so this one takes place in Billings. Some of the actors and actresses in this movie, I normally don't waste a lot of time here because one, I end up butchering names, and it's kind of pointless. You can go to IMDb or anywhere on the website, Google Sweet River, and it's going to pull up the cast. You will see it. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time with that. I'm not even going to waste no time with that. We're going to roll right into this bad boy. And this movie is one of those that it does have some kind of like, early in the beginning when I read the description, talks about the dead. There is some like dead kids. If that, fuck them kids, whatever. We're gonna roll with it. But there is this thing kind of takes place in this town to where something has happened. And you will learn as it goes of what happened. But then you get your main character, Hannah, she has lost a child. Apparently there was a killing in Billings. See, I almost rhymed that shit. Killing in Billings. And her son, there was like 5 kids, and I'd say young kids. Like her son, whose name is Joey, looked pretty fucking young. And these 5 kids get killed. They only find 4 bodies. We got us a missing child. Joey is missing Hannah's son. So Hannah has a plan to go back to where all this went down at. And she wants some fucking answers. I'm not even mad at her. Of course she wants some fucking answers. She's going to go back there and she wants to dig in and figure out, what happened to her child. Does she know her child's dead? Yes. 99.999%. She knows her child is dead. But she needs a body. She needs to be able to put an end to it. She needs to be able to bring him home. She needs to be able to bring Joey home and bury him and give him the proper stuff. That's what she wants to do. Because after she read after the news come out that, these 5 kids were killed, they found 4 bodies, but then they can't find one. She's not stupid. She knows more than likely her son Joey is dead, but She needs that closure, that being able to be like, okay, I found him, I have his body, I'm bringing him home, and that's what she wants to do. She's going out to Billings to figure out what the fuck happened to her son, because nobody knows. The one body hasn't been found. Then when she gets out there looking for her son, she realizes that people in this town is not going to want her there. They're going to want her just to pretty much pack your shit up and get on back to wherever you came from. They don't want her there. And as this thing starts peeling back, you understand why they don't want her there. They don't want her, interrupting what they have going on there. And that's kind of where when he talked about, like, the dead kids, there's a little something going on there in the town. And the town members don't want that messed up. They feel like they got something good going on. I don't say good, but for them it's good. But she's going to come there and she's going to kind of, stir some shit up because she wants to find her baby boy Joey. So that's how that's kind of like the backstory. A little bit of backstory. I say backstory. I don't even know if I said that shit right, but kind of like where we're going with this. We got us a mama. Her son was killed, and she never got the body, so she wants to go figure out what the fuck happened. So then we're going to get into this movie, Sweet River, and this is where I said I'm going to spoil it. And if you haven't seen it, pause it, go watch it, come back, and we're going to go through this thing. Once again, I hit the mic. My bad. My apologies. So she's going to... I'm going to spoil the shit out of this movie, people. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to give a lot of shit away. So if you don't want that, pause it, check it out, come back. But I kind of like to go from beginning to end and talk about it a little bit. So when this bad boy kicks off, you're going to catch this image of like somebody drowning. You see like some waters and you see like a face or whatever. Well, then you're going to get this lady that wakes up from like a bad dream. Hannah, who is our one of our main characters in this. And hold on one second. I will give Hannah some props because I was a fan of Hannah, played by Lisa Kay. Lisa Kay played Hannah. And so Lisa wakes up from like a bad dream. And you see that image in the beginning. And that's just kind of it. You see her wake up and then we jump. We're going to get James Lipton is his name. And we're in this bar. And there was a movie I seen not long ago, and I wish I couldn't remember it then. I still can't remember now, but I swear it almost looked like the exact same bar that this movie, who I'd watched before, was in. It almost looked identical as far as the layout on the inside. But James is sitting there at the bar talking about losing his job. He had apparently had a job and shit went down. He got cut loose. And so he's not too happy about it. So he's sitting there having some drinks and shit like that. And apparently, James, a.k.a. Jimmy, if I call him Jimmy or James or whatever, so Jimmy's talking to the bartender. And he's like, hey, well, I do have this, he's got a cottage, apparently, that he had bought. And he's renting this cottage out to an English lady. And he lets him know that I'm renting this cottage out. And so that's a little income coming in. And while he's continued drinking, he's telling the bartender, basically for money, he's like, I have plans to harvest the fields out there where he stays, where his cottage is that he rents out. They have these cane fields out there, and he plans to like harvest them for money because the dude just lost his job. So of course he needs a little fucking income. And then he makes the comment, and when you listen to it, you hear me he's like, they can't just leave them there. And you don't really catch it at the moment. I didn't catch it at the moment until after I'd watched it. And so then Jimmy decides it's time to go home for the night, closes out his tab out the door. Jimmy's driving home. Jimmy's driving drunk. People don't ever fucking do it. Don't do it. Jimmy did it, and it's going to fucking cost him. Don't drink and drive. Jimmy hops in his little fucking SUV, rolling back to his house that night. Jimmy driving home decides he's going to smoke a cigarette. I smoke. With alcohol, a cigarette goes great. But Jimmy driving down the road, trying to light him a cigarette. And some shit falls into the floor. I don't know if it was his lighter or whatever. As soon as it falls on the floor, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, Jimmy about to fucking hit something. He about to run over something. And so he kind of looks up and he don't see anything. And so all of a sudden he's like fiddling around in the floor. Well, next thing you know, you see a body standing out in the road. Jimmy fucking plows into it. And the car kind of runs off the road. And then Jimmy gets out after, he kind of gets out and he grabs his torch. They don't call them flashlights, I don't think, over there. I think they call it a torch. It's a flashlight to me. But grabs this bad boy out and he's kind of looking around. And he's trying to search whatever the fuck he just hit. And while he's out there looking, he don't see anything. Nothing. But then all of a sudden you hear this screeching sound. And this screeching sound catches his attention. And he kind of goes off to the side of the road and he's looking out in this field. And he kind of turns his back and he's kind of looking around trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Next thing you know, Jimmy dragged into the field area, into this like side of the road, just dragged off into it. He kind of screamed, dragged off, done, silence. Well, then the next morning, we pop up with man face down in this little like drainage creek area in between two sides of the land. I think that in the movie they call it the drainage area. But you see somebody face down in there. And then I just assumed when I seen that, like that's old Jimmy the drunk, face down now in this little creek drainage area. And then it kind of, jumps to a different scene. We catch our girl Hannah. Hannah is driving down the road. Hannah has like this, I don't know if it's like a podcast. I don't know if it's like a little self-help playlist or whatever she's got, but she's listening to like this little self-help music, like, making her, that type of shit that makes you feel better, I guess, about yourself. Not hating on it, people, but I'm just saying that's what she's listening to. As she's driving in, she comes across this the little accident area, which was the area where Jimmy had ran off the road and had gone missing. As she's driving by, you see Jimmy's car like kind of getting loaded up on like a rollback. And then you see somebody on the ground. They got like some sheets over them. And while she's driving by, she kind of looks and then she drives on by. But then you see the police officer. The police officer looks and he sees her. And when I first seen him, I'm like, he's looking at her like he knows her. Like he recognizes her as she drives by. And, I just kind of like, oh, this dude, does he fucking know her? It's just the way he looked at her. It wasn't just some random car that drove by. He kind of recognized her. Well, then we get Hannah pulling up to like this house. And when she pulls up, that's when I kind of start putting some shit together, because you had Jimmy in the beginning talking about how he was renting out his cottage to an English lady. So I assumed, like, okay, this lady is the one renting the cottage from Jimmy, who was face down in the water and is now fucking dead. So she pulls up to the house, the cottage, whatever. Goes up there, kind of knocks on the door, looking around, gets no answer. Well, then she's calling, and the person she's calling is Jimmy, face down Jimmy, and get no answer. Of course you're not getting an answer, because Jimmy was face down in the fucking water, lady. And so she's kind of looking around, but then she goes over to like a neighbor's who was kind of like right down the little driveway area from the cottage area, and she goes and knocking on the door. Well, a lady opens the door. The lady who opens this door, her name is going to be Eleanor or Ellie, however I decide to say it throughout this show. But she opens it up and she's kind of asking her. She's like, "Hey, I'm supposed to rent this place from, I'm supposed to rent the cottage." Well, then Ellie has no idea what she's talking about. Well, then she calls her husband, John. John comes out and he's kind of like, "Oh, I'll handle it. And so he kind of takes her, back over toward the house. He kind of knows what's going on. And apparently this cottage and these cane fields around there was something John had sold to Jimmy prior. So now Jimmy, for some income, is renting out the cottage. So they're walking over there, and as they're walking over to the cottage, Hannah tells John, like, "Oh, I just passed this accident as I was driving up." And, didn't really go into many details with it. She kind of mentioned it to him. And And so John kind of gets her checked in, gives her the keys to the cottage. Hey, if you need anything, let me know. Well, then next thing you know, we got Hannah on the phone. You find out it's like her sponsor. Like Hannah used to be an alcoholic, so she had a sponsor. She's calling him up. He's letting her know, like checking in with him, like, hey, I'm here. Everything's good, and he kind of knows what's going on. He knows that she's there looking for the body of Joey, her son. And he's kind of like, hope everything, you find out what you're looking for type stuff, and she's just trying to figure out like why the police never found a body and why they stopped the search. Apparently the search got stopped prior to Joey's body being found. So she wanted to figure out why. Why did all of a sudden did this just stop? But then we catch our dude John. He drives out to the accident scene that Hannah had told him about. He drives out there to it. And when he gets out there, the police officer comes up to him. You can tell it's like a small little community area. Everybody knows everybody. And when he gets out, he sees the cop knows him. They kind of talking. He lets him know that, hey, that was Jimmy. But then the police officer tells John, he said, do you know that Jimmy was in talks with contractors to have the fields harvested? Didn't really think nothing of it. Like, okay, dude wants to harvest his fucking fields, get some money, not a big deal. But they acting the way they're talking about it, like this is a bad thing. Like, why the fuck are you so worked up about this dude going to try to hire some people to get him some money? Like, why is this a bad thing? And then in this moment, I start thinking to myself, okay, did Jimmy die? Well, some fucked up shit got Jimmy, because when the screeching sound, he gets drugged off. Some fucked up shit going on. But I'm thinking to myself when I see it, I'm like, okay, was the fact that there's something know Jimmy was going to harvest these fields and it didn't want that shit to happen? Is that why Jimmy got drugged off and then bam, face down in the river the next morning? So John tells the police officer, he's like, hey, all of this needs to stop. You don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But then the police officer like, with your missus, is she ready for it to stop? Like Eleanor, is she ready for it to stop? And then this kind of stops, that part there. And then it got you thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, did Jimmy know something? Like, did Jimmy fuck up by saying he wanted to harvest these fields? Because he made the comment earlier, like, we can't just leave them out there. Like, you start kind of putting that shit together, like, what the fuck's going on? And then we catch later that night, we catch Hannah once again having another bad dream. And in their dream, you're seeing somebody hanging there, like somebody hung themselves, like in like a barn or something. And she like wakes up from this dream. And when she goes to the fridge, she like wakes up from dreaming, want to go to the refrigerator, get her a glass of water or whatever. She goes to the fridge. Well, then next thing you know, you hear that screeching sound, the same sound that fucking Jimmy heard before Jimmy got drug off and ended up face down. And then she goes outside. She walks outside. And when she walks outside, you see these red lights in the distance. Like these red, they're like lined up kind of way across. And she sees them. And then at first I'm thinking like, oh, fuck, we got some fucking alien shit going on. Because like I said, I don't know what the fuck this movie's about. Hold on 1 second, family. Hold on. Gentleman Jack break. Take you a sip. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, what the fuck are these lights? And I ain't gonna lie, I did not want it to be an alien type movie. I didn't really know what was going on, but when I seen the lights, I'm like, oh fuck, are we about to go down to alien? And I love a good alien movie. I don't have a problem with them. I just didn't want that one to go this way. So when I see them lights, I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna have some alien shit, But the next morning, I take it as the next morning. She's on a little run. She's a runner. She's like, go to get her morning exercise on. Ain't mad at her. She's on a little run. And she comes up. She's like running. A lot of these fields have like the roads up in between them where like, I don't really know where they're all at. I feel sure in that little area they're kind of all over. But, the little dirt paths up through like in between the fields. She's like running up them. Well, then she comes up to one. And when she's running up in there, you see this bare spot in the middle of these cane fields. Like it's this big, like squared out rectangle spot, and it's just empty. But then she kind of runs up on it. She runs up in there, and she starts looking around, and she looks down, and on the ground are some rocks. Well, these rocks are in a circular pattern. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you're seeing my finger. It's like this circular where it starts a small circle in the middle and just kind of gets wider and wider. I don't know what the fuck they call it, but she sees that with these rocks, and she pulls out her phone, takes a picture of it. And then when she takes a picture, she looks over and she sees a bicycle sitting there, like a little kid's bike, not a grown up, little kid's bike sitting there. And, oh shit, about knocked over my phone just then. But then she goes back. Then we get her back at the cottage. Hannah goes back. Now, I'm taking it like later that afternoon, after her morning run, you know. Well, then you catch her laying out all these newspaper clippings. And all of these newspaper clippings are about what went down, like with her son. This dude, Lenny Simpkins. I think I said that right. Lenny Simpkins. Lenny, we're going to call him Lenny. Lenny is the dude who killed the kids. And so she's laying out these newspaper clippings, and you're seeing that there were these 5 kids. 4 bodies were found. 1 was not found, which is her son, Joey. And she's like looking through these newspapers, and the Simpkin guy, Lenny, and you'll see this eventually. Lenny was the guy that was hanging in the barn when she had that dream a few minutes earlier. She was having a dream of some dude hanging. That was Lenny. And while she's looking at these newspaper clippings, it gives you a flashback. It gives you a flashback of Hannah and Joey the day Joey went missing. Her little boy went missing. And when I say little boy, Joey had to be maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 maybe. That's what it looked like to me. I don't do good with judging ages, but look 4 or 5. And you see her like helping him get dressed. He's putting his shoes on. He's got these red tennis shoes on. She's tying them up, you know. And remember the red shoes, people. We'll get back there. But then next thing you know, John comes over to kind of check on her, make sure everything's good. He walks in, and when John walks in, he sees all the newspapers. And this is the same area where all this went down. So when he sees the newspapers, John automatically thinks, like, oh, you're just some fucking journalist here to try to, like, you know, keep picking at the scab, trying to figure out some new shit. But then she comes out and tells him, she goes, I'm not a journalist. She goes, I'm a mother. And she explains to him, like, her son, Joey, was one of the kids that was killed, but no body was ever found. And he just kind of looks at her, you know, kind of like, it's almost like, you know, I don't know what all this town went through. But he kind of tells her, you know, I don't know if you're going to find what you're looking for here type shit. But she tells him, she's like, you know, Joey's case was never solved. And so completely understandable why she's there. Like, why did everything stop? Like, why did the search get called off and all this stuff? So I understand it. I get it. And in one of the newspaper clippings, you see this old house in the picture, which when I seen that, I was like, oh, that must be like Lenny's house, the killer's house, you know. And so when I seen this little picture in the background, next thing you know, Hannah's pulling up to it. I'm like, oh, okay. Hannah's going to go check out Lenny's house. When she gets there, though, but she doesn't go in. All she does, she gets out, she takes a couple pictures of the outside of it. Doesn't go inside of it yet. Not yet, people. But and then we get Hannah driving back. Hannah's driving back to her, like, in the tour cottage. You see her past this guy. There's this guy walking down the fucking middle of the road. Looks like a homeless dude. Got this little cart. Looks real rough looking. Just walking down the middle. And she honks the horn. This fucker don't move. He just stays right down the middle of the road. And she kind of drives around and goes off. And when I seen that, I'm like, okay, this old dude's going to come into play at some point. You wouldn't have wasted our time. At first, I thought, was this the fucking killer? You know, just before shit started getting put together, in my mind, I went, oh, fuck, is that Lenny? Is she gonna look at that person and think it's Lenny, the one who killed her son, and some shit pop off? But doesn't go that way. That's just where my mind went when I first seen it. So she's going back into town, and I say town like but this fucking area is small, man. It is a tiny little area. It goes back to a little local bar. And when she walks in there, these little local areas, man, and it's just these little small towns. Everybody knows everybody. When somebody new walks in, everybody gives you the look like, who the fuck are you and why are you here? And that's the kind of these looks she's been given, like, you don't belong here. Like, why are you here right now? And she kind of gets her like a water to drink or whatever because she's recovering alcoholic. That's why she has a sponsor. Well, then later on, she's back at her cottage. John comes up, invites her to dinner. Him and Eleanor going to invite her over for dinner. So when she gets over there, while she's sitting there waiting, while she's waiting, she sees a picture of a little girl. And so when you see that picture, you're thinking, oh, is that like their daughter and stuff? And so they're all sitting down to eat. I think it was fucking Hannah comes out and asks, I forget, like, how old's your little girl? How old's your daughter type shit. And it kind of gets this little awkward feel to it, like when she says that, and she's just kind of like, I seen her bike. I seen the bicycle, and, and so Eleanor is talking about her. And the daughter's name is Violet. And apparently John and Eleanor could not have kids. So they decided to adopt. And they have adopted Violet. And the way Eleanor's talking about her is like she's there, like in her room playing or some shit. I don't know. But then John just comes out and he's just like, she passed away. Like she's dead. And Hannah's kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. I seen the picture. I seen the bicycle, and then Eleanor's like, why do you have to talk like she is gone? And John's kind of like, well, she is. Eleanor gets upset. Eleanor leaves the table. I don't know if she goes outside, maybe went outside, smoked a cigarette. Who knows? Eleanor kind of walks off. And then Hannah's asking how it happened. And this is a little more to the story to where you start finding out. John explains to Hannah that shortly after everything went down with the kids that came up dead, there was an accident. There was a school bus driving back from, like, maybe it was summer camp. I'm not sure. Driving back from camp. A school bus full of kids. The school bus runs off the road and overturns into the river, creek, lake, whatever that is next to them, overturns in there. All the kids on this bus drown. The only survivor is the bus driver. I think his name is Tony, but all the kids are dead. All the kids from all these families are gone in this bus accident, drowned. And so the whole thing he tells her, he's like, he basically tells her, like, it was brake failure. A brake failure is what caused it all. The brakes went out, bus went off the road, into the river, all the kids drowned, and later on that evening, she's still there having dinner with him. John asked her, like, do you like music? He puts on a record player. And sidetrack here, I love the sound of a record player. Love a record on a record player. Something about that popping, fucking love it. So when he started playing that record, that automatic, I just like that part. They go out on the little porch deck area, and she asked him about those red lights, because you can see them. The ones I thought were some alien bullshit is not, because she asked him about the red lights. And he said, everybody on that side of the river, on his side, every one of those families lost kids in that bus accident. And the people on the other side of the river, they put up those red lights to let everyone on that other side know that your children are not forgotten. So every night, those red lights are them letting them know, like, your children are not forgotten, and there's a part of John that you can kind of tell, like, it's kind of a shitty reminder that, like, every night when the sun goes down and gets dark, you got to look outside and you see those red lights, which is a reminder that takes you back to you losing your child. And I could see that as being like, maybe I wouldn't like that. Maybe I wouldn't want that reminder, and he just kind of, you can tell there's a part of him like wish he could just kind of move on. But he tells her, like, it's not easy for Eleanor, for Ellie. He tells her it's not easy. And you're not understanding why, maybe it's a mother thing with her daughter, but later on, then we're going to catch John outside having him a smoke, like a cigar or something. I do enjoy a good cigar. And while he's standing out there, he's kind of like, you can tell he's around these fields, and you can tell that he's hearing something. And you're hearing something in the field, something moving, whatever. You tell he hears it. And then it kind of like jumps to the next morning. But then we catch Hannah the next morning driving through town. And when she drives through town, you see the police officer dude. I can't remember his name. I don't remember it. But the police officer dude, he sees her drive by. And to this point, I'm still trying to figure out, why is this dude looking at her? Like, how does he's looking at her like he knows her, And so Hannah drives out. Hannah's going to go to Lenny's house, the killer's house, this old rundown looking place. That's where she's going to go. And she goes walking, finally goes up inside the house. She's kind of looking around, and she goes upstairs, and she goes into like a bedroom. And when she goes in this bedroom, you see this bed there. And, you can kind of fill in the blanks how you want. But when you see this bed, everything about it just looks dirty. Everything there looks dirty. And, God, could you imagine the thought of a parent to see that, to know, you don't know what this fucking sick fuck did to your kids while he had them. Yeah, he killed them, but what did he do prior? And so when you go in there and you see this bed, and your child was never found, and this sick fuck's out there. So when I was watching it, I seen that bed, and I was just like, oh, that's so fucking just nasty, like everything about it. And she kind of goes in there, and you see her kind of like break down. She kind of like drops onto the floor, and she's kind of like crying, upset type shit. And I'm not even mad at her. It's almost like a panic attack she was having. And while she's there on the floor, she hears a noise downstairs. And as she goes downstairs, she like opens up the door, and bam, the police officer dude is sitting there. Like, he has followed her. He kind of knew where she was going. It's like he knew her, and he knew where she was on her way to that morning. And so he just kind of looks at her, and then he kind of like gets up, and he goes outside when she goes with him. And then when they're out there smoking, she's out there smoking, sitting there, and and this is where you realize that they know each other. They know each other because he was one of the police officers involved when the original search was going on, when they were looking for those kids and never found Joey. And she kind of goes out there, and he makes a comment like, like, you're the last person I expect to see here type thing. And she comes out and asks him, she's like, why did you stop looking for my son? And she tells him, that they should have burnt the fields. And all of those cane fields, I guess, to be able to make it easier to look for something, they could have burned these fields off, all these big cane fields, and try to search the area more. And he tells her, he was like, all of these fields they were looking, he said, look around. These fields go back as far as you can see. And they couldn't destroy all of them. Some of them got searched. Some of them didn't. And he's told her, he was like, this is people's livelihood. Like, if we burn these fields, this is their survival. This is how they live. This is how they earn their money. They would have lost all that money. And he's basically telling her, like, this is why we didn't search the fields around certain ones. They only search certain ones. Once again, flag goes up. like which ones got searched, which one didn't, and it will all come together of which ones got searched. And so then that night, I lost my spot. Oh yeah, that night, and you hear the screeching noise that night, and for the first time, you hear the noise, and you see these kid-shaped silhouettes running up out of the water across the road. You don't see nothing. You see the silhouette, the outline. You see it like a shadow almost, but you see it. These little kid forms come out of the water. And you're like, and as soon as I seen that, I was like, okay, kudos. We don't have us an alien movie. You know, I was good about that. And you see these little bodies come up. And I'm a little more interested now. So next thing you know, you're seeing Hannah in like a cane field. I can't tell if she's dreaming. I can't tell if it's a real her just out walking one day. I'm not sure. I still don't know. But there's a part of it where she kind of turns and you see like a little kid's body in the background, like somebody standing there, like a little kid standing there. And later on, we're going to catch John waking up one night. John wakes up. Ellie is not in bed. Well, then he just gets up and he goes outside, gets in his truck. But one thing I noticed, and I still don't know why, even after I watched the fucking movie, his flashlight or torch has like a red light in it. Not like a normal light. It's red. And then he gets in his truck to go looking like he already knows where the fuck he's going to find Ellie. Gets in his truck. When he starts it up, you see red lights on it. He's driving out like he knows where Ellie's at. And so as he's driving out, he finds her. It looks like that same bare spot earlier that Hannah came up on with the little rock layout. Like she's out there. And he pulls up on her and he gets out and he kind of like talking to her, gets her back in the truck type thing. And I'm like, but then I'm kind of like wondering what the fuck's all these red lights for? While this is going on, Hannah is back in her house, back in her cottage. And she starts hearing this noise. And she don't really know what it is. It almost sounds like I couldn't tell if it was upstairs or whatever. And when she goes out on the deck looking around, she don't see anything, but she does notice that John's truck's pulling up in the driveway. And she sees the little red headlights on it. John's back. And while she's on the deck seeing John pull up, you see a little boy. You see a little boy on the edge of the field. And he's looking at Hannah. And you can tell he's fucking dead. He looks dead. But one of the cool parts about this that I liked was while he's standing there looking at her, you could hear the water dripping. Like he had just came out of the water and was standing there looking at her. And you could hear the kind of water dripping off of him, you know, right there. Thought that was kind of cool. I liked it. And then, yeah, Hannah walks over to where I think it was the next day. Maybe it was the next day because it was daylight. And she comes up on, shit, I can't remember now. It just went blank. Oh, yeah, that's right. Fuck. I don't edit nothing, people. So when you listening to this and I get to this part, I don't edit this shit out. I brain farted. I figured it out. I'm back to it. Next day, Hannah's out on another little walk. She's coming down them same little roads that are in between all these fields. She sees a lady that comes out of the field, gets in her truck, and just drives off. When the lady drives off, Hannah walks up to the little clearing area where she's seen the lady walk out of. When she gets up to it, she looks and she sees a little boy. And the little boy just kind of runs off into the woods, into like the field area again. And she's kind of like trying to get him to stop, you know, but he's gone. But then she turns around, you see two more little kids at the end of the road where she just came from standing there. Well, then she sees them and she goes kind of chasing after them. And when she turns left around the corner, the kids aren't there, but Ellie is there. And she's kind of asking Ellie, like, where did the boys go? And Ellie's acting like she don't know what the is not paying her no attention at all. And they go back and she's trying to ask her, but Ellie's like ignoring everything. And she's talking, and Ellie tells her that John, her husband, had explained to her about her son Joey and why she's there. And, and she tells her, she's like, don't worry about him. He's an angel and they will never leave us. And she at one point she's telling Hannah about their daughter Violet, the adopted daughter who was killed on the bus, telling her before how she was scared of all the fields and them tall, and there are some super tall fields, people. When you watch this, you'll see it. They're like super tall, these cane fields are. And she was telling her about how she used to be afraid of them. And then she makes a comment like she's no longer afraid of them, but then when Ellie gets up, Hannah looks at her and she's like, Ellie, like, who are the boys? Like, she wants to know, but Ellie is not acknowledging, like, we're not going there, lady. And then I don't know if it was the same night or the next night, we catch Hannah. Hannah's in bed. And while she's in bed, you see a little boy sitting on the floor against the wall. You see this little boy. And you see her wake up. And I'm like, oh, girl, when she wakes up, she's going to freak the fuck out. And she does. You see her come flying out of the room, like freaking out. She takes off out of the house. She goes over to John's house. She's waking John up like, hey, somebody's in my house. And then she's like, John comes over there and he's like, there's nothing there. He doesn't see anything. He's kind of telling like, oh, it must all be in your head. And Hannah's not stupid. She's trying to figure out what the fuck, man. But John just kind of like, it must all be in your head. And she's asking him, she's like, what's up with all these red lights? Because he came over there with another red light on his little torch / flashlight. And she's like, hey, I know I seen your car with the headlights. She's like, what's it all about? And he's not saying shit. All he tells her is, do not say anything to Ellie about what just went on, about her seeing a little boy. He said, don't say nothing to Ellie. And he tells her then, he was like, tomorrow, you pretty much need to pack your shit and get out of town. Tells her, like, next day, get going. But at this point, motherfucker, Hannah ain't going nowhere. There's some shit going down. Hannah's going to get some answers. She ain't going nowhere. And so then we're going to catch Hannah. I don't know if she's like coming out of like a bar, a restaurant or whatever, but she's going back out into her car in a little local area. You can tell. She's going out to her car. She sees the lady drive off. On the windshield of her car, and you know how cars get dusty? People like to write shit on them, like wash me, all that fucking shit. Well, then on her windshield, I think it says like fuck off. It's like people in that town are wanting her gone. Like they don't want her disrupting what they got going. It's like they got something good and she's gonna be there to fuck it up. You can tell she's upset. She's sitting in her car that night and she's watching the video of her little boy Joey, and she don't know what's going on. You gotta think about it. She's seen these kids out in the field. She's seen this little fucker sitting next to her bed against the wall. Nobody's telling her nothing. John saying it's all in your head. She don't know what's going on. And there's a part of her that's got to be losing her fucking mind, like trying to piece all this shit together. And so she's sitting in her car, and you could tell she's to that breaking point, man. And she's like on the phone. She's trying to call her sponsor. The sponsor don't answer. Like she needs somebody to talk to. He don't answer. Well, then the next thing you know, Hannah's getting out, heading into the liquor store, going to get her a bottle. And I think it was the next day or so, she's at that little local bar again. And she's talking about, I forget how she was talking to the little bartender dude, but she's brings up the whole Lenny kid. And then the bartender kind of picks up on like, I'm assuming he thinks the same thing. Like, you're just some reporter trying to dig more into this shit that's already been done. you know, and so he makes a comment to her, and I forget exactly how it went, but and she asked a question like, so Lenny was working on the cane farm of the Drakes. Lenny, the dude that killed her son that season, was working on the farm of the Drakes. People, the last name Drake goes to John and Ellie. The same little area she's been staying. The same motherfucker she went and had dinner with. The same John and Ellie she's been back and forth with. The dude who killed her son that season was working for the Drakes. That's their last name. So then, oh shit, what the fuck is going on now? While she's talking to the bartender, he brings up the name of because he made the comment like, oh well, he worked for several people in the town. He worked for different farms, and he even worked for Tom Evans. Tom Evans was the bus driver of the bus when it went off into the river. The only survivor of the whole thing was the bus driver, Tom. And basically tells her like, well, he worked for him too. He worked for a bunch of people. And so next thing you know, she's driving out there. She's going to go see Tom because Mama Hannah's on a hunt, baby. She's going to figure out what the fuck's going on. So she goes out to see Tom. While she's talking to Tom, she's basically asking, like, do you know any idea what Lenny may have done with my son? Because it's not a question on who killed him. This all known that this Lenny Simpkin killed these kids. She just wants to find the body. And while she's talking to Big Tom, you know, and she comes out and asks him, she's like, was it really brake failure that happened on the bus? And you can tell Big Tom, he's got a lot of shit on his mind. He's holding a lot of shit in, a lot of guilt, a lot of stuff on his mind. And he's basically telling her, he comes out and tells her about how this dude Clayton, his son Max, came out into the road on his bicycle. When he came out of the road from nowhere, Tom swerved the bus to miss him, and then the bus went into the lake. That's what Tom is telling Hannah happened. But everybody's saying brake failure. Why? Why at this point we're wondering why everybody's saying brake failure? When it was a little boy, Max, comes out into the road and the truck and it goes off the road, the bus does. So after she's done talking to the bus driver dude, she drives out to the area to where the bus went off into the river. She drove out there and she's like looking around. You know, Mama Hannah's on a hunt right now. She's going to peel back the fucking onion. And so you see her go to a part of the little river creek area, and when you see her look into the water, you see the same circle shape, that same design that she's seen in the bare part of that field. And then you're kind of like, even at this point, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't know we seen some little kids. And then when I heard the bus story, I'm thinking, okay, are these the kids of all these kids, little ghost kids, that the little kids got killed on the bus? You know, you're trying to piece it all together. And that night, she's at home on the internet. She's searching. And you see her, she's reading a news report on the internet that basically says that it shows a picture of all the kids on the bus. And one of the kids on that bus, in the pictures on the website news, was Max. So the story and the way the locals are pushing it is that Max was on the bus and that the bus brakes went out, it went into the river. But the bus driver has explained to Hannah that this Max kid ran out into the road on his bike. He was not on the bus. And once again, it's all building up more questions, man. Like, what the fuck is going on in this little fucking town that ain't nobody fucking talking about? And then Ellie is now talking to Hannah. and they're sitting there, I think, over having cake or some shit. I can't remember. But she's talking to her, and she's basically telling her how she like talks to Violet. And she tells Hannah in this conversation, they were supposed to harvest those fields the next day, the day after that bus crashed into the river and all of those kids died. They were supposed to harvest all those cane fields. And now she basically says, now they never will. And it's kind of like, well, why the fuck not? And then once again, we're peeling this bad boy back. And she tells Hannah, Ellie does, and she tells him, like, you don't have to find Joey. And she said, he's going to find you. I'm like, what the fuck? But then once again, we catch Hannah having another bad dream, another dream. You see the image of Lenny, the one who killed her son, walking down one of these roads in between these cane fields. And he's got like a shovel in his hand. And, you know, you can tell, man, she's on the brink. Like, Hannah is struggling because all this shit's going on. Ain't nobody telling her nothing. She's just trying to figure shit out. She's struggling. And next thing you know, she goes sees the local drug dealer. I don't even remember his name. I just call him the drug dealer, to get some shit to help her sleep. I don't know what the fuck it was. Don't really go on. I don't remember it. But she goes to see the little local drug dealer, get her something to help her go to night, you know. So that night, she's at home in the bedroom, not in her bedroom, in the bathroom. She's kind of looking at herself in the mirror. And you can tell, man, like, this shit's got to be wearing on her. Like, what the hell is going on in this little fucking town? Well, then she comes out of the bathroom, and you see these wet footprints down the hallway. So as she starts following him, she gets into, like, I don't know if it was like the living room or something, but then all of a sudden you start hearing all these loud ass noises, like loud, like just something thunderous sound. And she just starts freaking out. Like, she's losing it, man. Like, she like covers her ears, you know, drops to the floor, like screaming, like, shut up, shut up, shut up. Because it's just, everything is getting to her. She's in the same boat we are right now. We don't know what the fuck's going on at this moment. But then we get a shot of the house from the outside. And it's like nighttime. Well, you see the house, but then you have to kind of pay attention. On top of the house, you see the fucking kids. All these little kids are on the roof of her house. It's like, well, that's the noise she was hearing. All these little fucking kids are up there running all over the roof, you know. And the next morning, Hannah, I'm not even mad at her. Hannah's sitting there making her a drink already. Cigarette in hand, making her a drink. And she goes out there and she's kind of looking out the window. When she looks out the window, you see her little patio, her little deck. And on the deck, you see something there, something sitting there. And it catches her attention. She runs out to the deck. And earlier, people, I said, remember the red shoes. When she gets out on that deck, there's a pair of shoes right there. Muddy, dirtied up pair of shoes sitting on the deck. But then you know whose those are, people? Those are Joey's shoes. And I'm just like, because when I first seen them, when you can kind of tell they were shoes. And I'm watching, I'm going, that's some fucking shoes. And then my mind went back and it kind of flashed back to like, okay, that's why they gave you that shot of the red shoes. So she goes out there, calls the police guy. Police guy comes out there. She don't touch him. They're still sitting there, calls him out there. He acts like he's just ignoring the whole thing. He's almost like, well, word around town is people are just pranking you now. Like, they're just trying to play pranks on you to give you a hard time. And I'm just like, really, dude? And she makes the comment. She goes, well, how would anybody in the town know the kind of shoes that Joey was wearing the day he went missing? Which made complete sense. And then he's kind of like, you know, well, how do you know, blah, blah, blah. Damn it, Mama knows. Mama Hannah knows. And so he just kind of tells her, he was just like, okay, I'm going to send these to the city to get him tested. And he's basically like, if this turns up that this is nothing, then you basically need to leave. Once again, another person trying to push her out. And he's telling her, like, okay, you have to leave. So the funny part is when he went to grab the shoes, this dumb fuck didn't have no gloves or nothing. So when he goes to grab the shoes, she just like yells at him. She's like, hey, maybe you want to get some gloves or something? And then she like even calls him like an idiot because he goes to pick him up with like, but you could tell like he's trying to hide something. Like he wants her gone, you know, and while she's talking to him, come to find out the property where they're at right now, that John and Ellie and them had, that property right there was not searched like the others. This place where all these fields are wasn't searched. They didn't burn these fields. They didn't go in depth looking into these fields. And she's got this feeling. Mama Hannah knows that Joey's there somewhere. But then fucking police officer guy tells her, he's like, you know, you need to let it go. Like this place will drive you mad. Like he's just trying to get her out of town. And Hannah's on the couch later that night asleep. Guess what we get? We get the noise. The same shit up on the roof again. We get that noise. And she goes out there looking around, don't see nothing. But then she goes out to that area of the field, that little bare space where the little rock thing was. She goes out there. And while she's out there, she sees these parents are out there. And she sees these little ghost kids coming out of the little field, and the parents are like talking to them. Like mamas are out there like hugging on them. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is the whole thing. Like, I don't know how, but these kids are like trapped there, these little ghost kids, and the parents are still able to see them whenever they want. They go out in this little field area, and this little ghost kid come out. Mama hugs on him and shit like he's still there. And while she's looking around, next thing you know, she looks up, and the kid Max, the one that was on the bicycle, Max is looking at her. And she hauls ass, takes off out of the field, you know, and while she's running, she bumps into John on her way out of the field. And she's trying to tell John, like, I seen Max, I seen this. And John just like, oh, you're losing it, you know. And then she's trying to tell him, she's like, I seen the kids, I've seen Violet. And she's telling John about all this. And John's like, tomorrow, you need to pack your bags and leave. And I'm just like, what? And at this point, people, y'all got to know Mama Hannah ain't fucking leaving. Like some shit's going down right now. She's going to get to the bottom of it. And so the funny part is that after this, she's on the phone with her sponsor. Like later on that night or whatever, she's on the phone with him. He's like talking to her, like, how's things going? And it's like, you can tell she's talking to her sponsor while at the same time sipping on a little something. You know, maybe it was a gentleman, maybe it was a little rum. I don't know. But she was sipping while talking to the sponsor. I like that part. And so when she starts looking into this Max, Clayton was his name. Clayton was his last name. Starts looking it up on the internet. And it shows a picture of Max's dad. And he's basically in this little clipping on the internet. It's basically stating how the dad disagreed with it all. But for some reason, they have pushed this out there like brakes went out, Max was on the bus, and they just kind of ignored anything else. And come to find out, the dude that was walking down the middle of the road earlier was Max's dad. And he just looked like somebody that the town had forgot about. Like this homeless nobody. Like the town just ignores him, and nobody gonna listen to him. He's fucking crazy, you know, shit like that. And so when she sees this, she goes out looking for him. She goes back to this, because earlier on she sees him in this little barn area. She goes back and she finds him. And she sits down. He kind of looks at her, he wants to leave. But she's like, no, I want to talk to you. And I want to talk to you about your son, Max. And she tells him, I lost my son too. Well, then Max's dad comes to tell her, Like, he was not on the bus. And he gives her a picture. And the picture he had shows that Lenny, once again, another picture of Lenny, was on that farm that same season that all this went down. Lenny was working the farm with John. And so, and she tells him, she's like, and he knows what's going on. He just he stays away from it because she tells him, she goes, I've seen Max. I've seen your son Max. And he's like, what you see is not my son. Like, he knows some shit's fucked up. But then Hannah's got to start digging deeper, man. She heads on up to, she's like walking. I don't know if she went out to like Lenny's old house or whatever, but she's like walking down this road next to it. And you see the house, and then you see this little girl on the balcony looking at her. And that little girl is Violet. And so she goes up in the house. She's like looking for her. And as she's like calling for her, she hears a glass break. And then she gets upstairs and she goes into a room, and you see this old picture frame on the ground, and it had busted. Like, it was like Violet was giving her the clues. Violet was helping Hannah peel all this onion shit back and get to the bottom of it. When she goes to the picture, you see the picture is like a drawing of the house that she's in, like Lenny's house, like a drawing of it. When she picks that piece of paper up off the broken frame area, you see another picture. And when she picks that picture up, in that picture is a picture of Lenny, the dude that killed her son, and John, the same motherfucker she's been carrying on back and forth conversating with, helping her out with the cottage. That guy. You see them those two together in one picture. She flips, you can tell looking at the picture, there's some writing on the back. She flips it over, and it says, on the back of that picture, it said, "Strong like your old man." And then the light went off for me, people. I said, holy fuck. John is the father of her son's killer, Lenny. John's the daddy. I'm just like, oh shit. And then when you see that, over her shoulder, you see Violet standing there. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, we're back at the cottage. And Violet shows up. And she's telling Hannah that Max wants you to leave. And Violet tells, and this is like when she wakes up, like she's asleep, wakes up like Hannah, little ghost kid, is talking to her. And she's just like, Violet says, I will help you find what you're looking for. And she's like, do you know where my son Joey is? And she says that, basically saying that Joey said you should remember the shoes. And Violet makes a comment. She goes, I wish I could go where Joey is, but I can't. And so then I get to thinking, I'm like, okay, so they're trapped. Are they trapped in like some, like, I don't know what they call it, but she can't go on to the better place, like where Joey's at, because she's stuck in this little whatever because of these fields or whatever it is. She can't go. Like, they can't just go to be peaceful. They can't go on and just pass on. And is it because of these fields? And so they're like stuck there for some reason. Well, Violet goes outside. Hannah follows her. She goes out to the edge of the cane fields, and she puts her hand out. Hannah goes up in there with Violet, and she takes her out there, and she kind of like points down. And when she points down, I'm like, oh, fuck. Is that where Joey's buried? Well, she kind of starts digging, and you see a piece of like a shoestring tied around the bottom of one of these cane stalks or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit, is that where she's about to fucking find her son, his body? Well, then a noise comes up, and you see Violet look up. Max is standing there, And then Hannah kind of leans over and whispers it, and it was so fucking creepy when she did it. She like whispers in Hannah's ear, like, run. And I like, fuck yeah, baby. I'd have been running with you. Like, just the way she said it. She takes off running, gets back to the house. When she gets into the house, Max is in the house. And she's trying to talk to him. Little ghost boy Max, like, I want to help you. Tell me what you want. And he makes this death scream. And all he screams is leave. And he disappears. Well, then she goes to the table, grabs a notepad, and writes down in her notepad 10 rows, 33 steps, which means she counted when she went out in that field. Smart lady, counted what road down and how many steps it took her to get to this area that fucking Violet took her to. And so, man, it was, and at this point, she basically goes back to the bar later that night because this shit's got to be fucking wearing on her, man, because everything, all this shit's been going on. Nobody's telling her nothing. Everybody's trying to get her out of fucking town. She don't know what the hell's going on. She goes in, she's at the bar that night having her drink. The little druggy dude comes up in there, starts talking to her. And he's basically like, oh, I thought maybe you want to get high tonight. She's like, sure, why not? She goes back to the cottage. They're sitting around, you know, he's smoking whatever meth bullshit he's smoking, you know, having a drink. And he starts telling Hannah about how he lost his sister. Druggy dude's sister was on that bus also. And he's basically telling her, like, we have a good thing here. Like, he's like, we're able to see our family members and you need to leave and you're going to mess this all up. And she's like, she basically tells him, like, okay, you need to get out. And he's not having it. Like, he's like telling her, like, you need to get your shit and get out of here and don't mess up what we got. Well, next thing you know, he's got her like pinned against the wall and he's like choking her and shit. Well, then John comes in with a shotgun to his face. Basically tells druggy dude to get the fuck out. And druggy dude leaves. Well, then Hannah's on the floor, like upset. Like this dude was like trying to fucking hurt her. And she's sitting there. John brings her a glass of her drinky drink. He sits down next to her. When he sits down next to her, I'm like, oh man, you are literally sitting next to the dude who was the father of the fucker that killed your kid. She pulls the picture out of her back pocket. She had that same picture, hands it to him. And she basically tells him, your son killed my son. And John just says, yes, he did. And John was kind of like, you know, he was broken. And he makes this comment like, but he was mine. He was my boy. I don't know what else to say to you. I'm sorry. You know, and I watch a lot of like the ID channel and a lot of these like, you know, murder shows and shit like that. And you'll catch these parents who are talking about their kids could have been some fucking killer that went on a rampage. But, you know, a lot of these parents, like, I've heard watch one yesterday and he's like, you know, that was my boy. You know, no matter what he did, at the end of the day, that's still my kid. And that's the way John was with Lenny. Like that was his son. And yes, he knows. So he starts talking to her and he explains to her, like he realized the day that his son was fucked up. Like he knew he was fucked up. And it flashes back and it finally shows us Max on his bicycle when he comes riding down these little roads in between these fields. He sees Lenny coming out of the cane field with a shovel. And when Lenny sees him, Lenny starts chasing Max. Max on his bicycle is trying to get away. He starts yelling for John to help him. Now, John has a bad leg. John ain't fast. You'll see it in the movie. He's got this limp. And John's telling her, like, I seen Lenny going after him, and I was trying to stop him, but I couldn't. And Lenny's chasing Max. Max is yelling for help. And Lenny's fucking nuts, man. And This is the part where you see Lenny's bike go out into the road. You see Violet on the bus, and then this is where that bus goes off into the fucking river, into the river. Um, and so while she's telling all this, she tells John, she's like, John, we got to burn the fields. You have to burn these fields. My son is in that field. And he was like, well, how do you know that? He's like, well, Violet showed me. Your adopted daughter, pretty much. She showed me where he's at. We have to burn these fields. And John's like, Ellie won't let it. Ellie will not let these fields go. And he's like, you can't take that away from her. And then she's explaining this to John. She's like, Violet wants to leave. Like, Violet wants to move on, but she can't. And it's what she wants. It's what she told me. So you have to let her go, you know. And then John's like, well, if we burn these fields, they won't be able to see their kids anymore. But they have to. So that night, John goes to Ellie. And Ellie, I guess they have like some sleeping pills, help him get a good night's sleep. And he puts the pills out. He's like, we need to get some rest. And she's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Well, then John makes a comment. He was like, when is this all going to end? You know, when is this going to stop? Because while she's sitting there, you hear the little loud screeching noise again because she's like looking out the window. And then John just kind of walks out. He's going out to a shed. We catch Hannah is in her little cottage that night. Well, then you hear this little noise, like some shit's going down. Hannah runs out. She comes around the corner. The same little shed that fucking John was walking to. John is knocked out. He's on the ground. Well, she starts CPR yelling for Ellie. And then I think Max got him because when John walks out to the fucking shed, you see a body come out of like the field area. And I think that was Max. But so Hannah's out there doing CPR. Ellie shows up. She's telling to call 911 type shit. Ellie finally drops down next to John. Well, then Hannah grabs the torches and the gasoline. The same shit that John was going out there to get. She grabs, you see her grab the torch and the gasoline, and she's heading out. And Ellie's yelling like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Well, then we catch fucking Hannah driving out to middle of these cane fields with a little fuel and the little torch that they use to burn these cane fields. And she lights this bad boy up. She starts lighting these fields up on fire. And it starts showing you some flashbacks of this thing. And one of the flashbacks it shows you is that when Max came out into the road, Max wasn't hit by the bus. Max wasn't dead because it shows the bus driver come out of the water and he looks and sees Lenny has Max drowning him in the river. And the bus driver comes up. He's like yelling. And that image is the same image that Ellie was having not Ellie, but Hannah was having in the beginning of the movie. The person drowning. It was Lenny drowning Max. You know, and so it was like Ellie shows up while the fields are burning, all these flashbacks are going on, and she's like, I didn't get to say goodbye. Hannah like grabs her and she's like hugging her, you know, and that night the fucking fields burn. And it was kind of like, I took that as like that. Finally, all these kids can go on now. These fields are burned. The families are finally going to have to deal with the fact your kids are gone. But these kids can move on, you know, and be peaceful. And well, the next morning you catch an image of the police officer guy coming out into the field. And it's that same area to where Violet took Hannah. He's walking out there. And as he goes out there, and you can tell he's at that spot, he starts digging. Well, you catch Hannah standing on the edge of the field. She's looking at him. Police guy starts digging. I'm like, oh, fuck, man, he's going to find the body, which I'm glad he did. He does find the body. He looks back at Hannah. Like, you can tell, like, it doesn't show anything, but you can tell. He looks at her. She falls to her knees crying. But I'm just like, well, it's got to be a fucking, you know, a part of that's like a relief. Like, finally, I have his body. I have whatever's left of it anyway. I can take it back home. That closure, you know, that she had. And falls to her knees crying. And, like, finally, it's over. And at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, it got all the kids out too. The only thing I was, and that's pretty much how it wraps up right there, people. It wraps up, but I'm trying to figure out, like, maybe I'm just missing it, of why Max wanted her gone. Why Max wanted her out of town. Did Max enjoy all of them being able to be there and do the shit he was doing? Did he not want to move on? Maybe he was he wanting the truth to come out? I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure why Max wanted her gone. I got how, like, when Violet's like, she wants to be where Joey's at. But when Max trying to get her to leave, I thought maybe, like, damn, dude, like, she's trying to fucking unveil all this shit of what actually went on. And so that's how it wraps up. It is this is the part of the show, though, where I got to get my rating now. Fuck, marry, kill. I tell you right now, for me, this is a marry for me. I enjoyed this thing. I have watched it twice since I decided to do it. I watched it the first time when I came across it and watched it. And then I wanted to watch it again to take some notes for the show. I watched it again. And it's a marry for me. I enjoyed this movie. It was something about it. I liked the fact, one, that it wasn't aliens. It was some ghost babies out in the field, whatever. But, it had did it have a Children of the Corn spin? Maybe, yeah, whatever. I enjoy Children of the Corn too, all of them, But this is a marry for me, man. I could pop this in, and it's just, I like it. I like the creepiness about it. I like the kids. I like the little Max kid. It wasn't a lot of, like, jump scares or nothing like that. No gory type shit, which I love those type of movies. But this one, man, I liked it. I really, really like this movie. So yeah, this one, it's going to be on mine that I bought it. Like, I bought it. I buy certain movies, but I bought this one, and I will be going back to watch this one because I just enjoyed it, man. It was Sweet River to me was fucking good. Now, then after I watched it, I went and looked at the ratings, and I see some of the shit people put on IMDb and all that stuff. Whatever. Everybody's got their own opinion. That is the beauty of watching movies and horror movies and stuff, because the way I see it is I love this movie. I'm fucking marrying it. Now, somebody else may see it and be like, oh, fuck no. But hey, that's whatever. It's an opinion. I want you to go check this thing out on your own. Watch it. Let me know what you think. My feelings ain't going to get hurt. I want to know what other people think about this movie. So go check this thing out. It's free on Tubi. Stop by, let us know. But this was a 100% marry for me. I will be watching this one again. God, I had a good time. I liked it. I don't know exactly. I can't put my finger on it, but I liked it. But yeah, don't pay attention to what all the fucking websites and bullshit people tell you. Sit down on your own, watch it, and make your own decision. Because if I would have went off of what comments I read and everything else, I seen anything from like 1 star, people talking, once I was done watching it, people talking shit. If I would have based it off of that, I would never watched it. But I watched it and I fucking had a good time with it. I enjoyed it, and I will be watching it again. I now own it, and if I could somehow find the poster of it to add to my collection, I would definitely do that. But marrying it, baby. Love this movie. Had a great time with it. Definitely recommend it. It's free on Tubi. Go check it out. Now, I don't know what next week's episode is going to hold. I don't know what's coming next. Never have a plan here. I'll figure it out. But hey, I appreciate you all taking the time. I appreciate you, taking an hour or so out of your day to listen to me sit here and talk some shit about a movie. Now, and I appreciate you, drinking with me. Hold on one second. Gentleman Jack break. Thank you. Now, tune in next week. I don't know what's coming. Like I said, don't know what it's going to be. But I appreciate you all. I appreciate everybody who listens. I appreciate the small group, because we all know here we're not everybody's cup of tea. But for the ones who the faithful few, fucking love you. Appreciate you hanging around. Appreciate you listening to us. Appreciate all the support. Now, this is that time of the episode, people. I need you all to grab your drinks. I need you to grab your shit, put your chairs away, and get the fuck out of here.
So you like to listen to people talk about crime, but did you ever wonder why criminals do the things they do? Like what makes them tick? My name is Debbie, and I'm the professor at True Crime University. Join me in the classroom Thursdays, wherever you get your podcasts, for intellectual discussions about crime, psychology, and why criminals do what they do. See you there.